Okay, welcome everybody to our lunchtime talk on community mediation. I'm Claire McSweeney, the manager in Ballymun Community Law Centre. And this is Sandra, our development officer, and Sandra is going to lead the session today. Sandra coordinates our mediation services. So in Ballymun Community Law Centre, we're the recipients of the Ballymun Social Regeneration Fund from Dublin City Council, just to acknowledge the funding that makes the services possible. And we received a grant for a video to promote community mediation, which Sandra is going to share with us today. That's the first time we have shared it today. So thank you for coming along to us. So I'll hand you over to Sandra. If there is any questions, just pop them in the questions and answers. Sandra will either address it as we go or we'll take them at the end. So thanks very much. I'll hand over to you, Sandra.
All right, thank you very much, Claire, and just welcome to everyone. It's good to see everyone joining. I'm just going to share my screen now. Just a moment. There you go. All right, so before I go in depth on just what mediation is, in particular community mediation, I'm just going to talk generally about the work that we do as the Law Centre. So as the Law Centre, our main focus and our main goal in the community is to promote access to justice. So there are different ways that we do that. We do that by offering legal advice, by also promoting mediation, because mediation in its own way actually promotes access to justice. So that's the main reason why we're in the community. And our services are free and they're confidential. Right. So the services that we offer in our just like our overall goal of promoting access to justice, we have the legal service, we have the education and training, and we have the mediation. I'll speak briefly on the first two, the legal and the education and training, before I go in more detail on the mediation. So in terms of like legal, we offer legal advice to community members. We also promote like just advocacy and representation around the issues that affect the legal issues that affect the people of Ballymun. And we do that by taking phone calls. People can call in directly to us with their queries. We also do that by running some free legal clinics in the community where people who ordinarily would not be able to afford or have access to a solicitor can walk into one of our locations on a weekly basis and speak directly to a solicitor. The issues that we mainly cover have to do with debt, housing, social welfare, equality, and family law and employment. We offer advice on these issues, but we also have other partnerships, valuable partnerships with other organizations that we work with, where we can refer callers who have their queries to get some assistance. We also offer education and training, education on the legal aspect. So we have like child law classes that we offer. We have, for people who are interested, for the most part, residents of Ballymun can join these classes for free of charge. We also have the social welfare law course that we just completed. We have just different number of legal courses that we run. We also run a mediation course, which I'll speak more about once we get to the mediation part. Right. And for the reason that we're here today, we want to talk about mediation. Most of the times when you think about a law center and you think about access to justice, you're thinking about getting to court, like making sure that someone has their day in court. But we dare to reimagine what access to justice actually is. And access to justice can actually include mediation, because sometimes what people just want is to be heard. And that in itself is justice, and access to justice for other people who normally would not have a way or a medium to have their issues heard or to speak to someone that they feel is wronging them, right? So that's the kind of mediation that we promote. So we do this by offering a course. We have a conflict dynamics and mediation course that we offer for professionals, volunteers, and anyone who's interested basically in the issues of like mediation and the conflict dynamics as well. We also have conflict coaching where we also prepare people to better manage situations. I'll speak more about that as well. We work with the local schools to also promote peer mediation and conflict coaching so that the young people develop a better way of resolving conflict. But not only that, that when they go back home, they also promote the same practice to students. We found that in the past, when you also target young people in the schools, it's a nice entryway into the community and the adults for them to also know about community mediation, because the students will go back to school and be like, oh, okay, I know about this thing about mediation. Or when their parents say, oh, we received a letter to do mediation, they'll be like, actually, I know about that. And just that familiarity with the concepts in the community, just from the young people in the schools, actually helps us to promote mediation better. So that's what we offer, and community mediation, of course. So before I go deep into what community mediation is, we have a video that we're just going to play for you, which we have a video that was sponsored by Dublin Northwest Partnership, which basically explains in animated form what community mediation is. I'll of course expand further on that. And we have Shadowhawk to thank for this lovely presentation that I'm about to share. I'm just going to share it with you now. Right. Just a moment there.
What do you know about community mediation? Neighbours can get into all kinds of disputes, and sometimes things can feel like they're out of control. But when it comes to problems between neighbours, we believe there's always a solution. Ballymun residents have access to free and unbiased community mediation with trained and accredited mediators through Ballymun Community Law Centre. It's a confidential process where everybody gets heard, and problems can be solved without the need for solicitors or the courtroom. If you're in a dispute with your neighbours you don't know how to solve, get in touch. You may be able to resolve it through community mediation. We can provide community mediation sessions to restore your relationships and reduce stress and tensions between neighbours. For more information, please visit bclc.ie.
Right, so that's just like a brief animated, way of explaining what mediation and community mediation is. And I'm just going to go back and just like reshare my slides, and we can talk more about that, right? So as you can see, you probably saw in the little video, like these, the barking dogs and everything, that obviously speaks to some of the things that can raise conflict in a community. So I'm just going to talk about what kind of cases that community mediation would assist with. So the reason why we have community mediation is because we want to limit the number of issues, neighbor disputes that go before a court. Because for the most part, some of these issues might seem like it's just like one dispute, but at the bottom, like below all of that, there's like a relational breakdown that a court cannot address. So for example, someone can say, there's an issue with someone's dog, so I want to take the matter to court. They go to court, the issue with the dog has been resolved, but they come back again and there's another issue. And imagine that every time that they have a dispute, people go to court. And naturally, where people stay together in a community, there are going to be disputes, there are going to be issues, as long as you stay with other people in a community. So what mediation does at the first sight of a conflict is to address the relational aspect, to make sure that people are given the toolkit that they need to be able to address their disputes in daily living, right? So the reason why this is so important is that it prevents things like, it resolves stress amongst neighbors. It prevents things like tenancy loss, because sometimes one small thing can actually snowball into a bigger thing, and people end up asking, to be moved, or like their landlords are not happy with the conflict, and people end up losing their tenancies. So those are some of the issues that we want to nip in the bud to make sure that it doesn't get to that part. People need to find ways to prevent to prevent conflict spiraling in less destructive ways, right? So the important thing about community mediation, like I said, it is an empowering process. So what we're essentially doing is empowering the people, like community members, to be able to deal with their own issues. Because unfortunately, once people go to the court system is more like, win or lose. There's a winner, there's a loser. Whereas in community mediation, we're trying to come to some sort of a middle ground, so that people don't draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not going to talk to this person anymore, and it's just animosity forever. So what kind of disputes are we looking at, basically, that usually come to us? We have boundary disputes. Someone has extended, is thinking of extending their wall beyond what they actually should. We have issues to do with plants. There are trees growing into my yard, and it's leaving leaves everywhere. They need to cut their branch, but they don't want to. We have breach of peace, sometimes issues with antisocial behavior that involves even children. My neighbor's children are cursing at me. They're doing all of these things. Their parents don't even know, or I can't even report them to the guards because they're children. What can I do? We have complaints about noise, as you saw in the video there, with pets, the barking dogs, the loud music that can cause a nuisance. We have issues someone has installed lights in their yard and they're glaring and they're affecting me. What can I do? So those are the typical cases that we usually see that can benefit from community mediation, that don't need to go to the courts, right? So how does mediation work? So the most important thing, that mediation is not like a court system where we want to look for a winner or establish a winner or a loser. Not necessarily a loser, but we want to establish a winner. What we want to do is to reach an agreement that is acceptable to both sides. And this is done by giving a platform to both sides to express their feelings, express their issues, reflecting those issues back to them, so that they themselves can come up with a solution that works for both of them. The mediator is not there to impose a way on the parties. Mediation is definitely time-saving, and it's cost-effective, and it's a good alternative to legal action. And like I said, the mediator is neutral and is not there to actually tell people what to do. What also is important is that the agreement that is reached in mediation is a good faith agreement. It's not legally binding. And I find that this is very important, because people are afraid to bind themselves to a legal document, to say, well, I agreed that I'm going to do this. And they're afraid that, if they fall short and all of that, will they be taken to court? Will they be imprisoned, etc.? So I find that this being a non-binding good faith agreement is a good initiative for people to actually come forth and be interested in mediation. So that's something that we like to impress on people from the get-go, that anything that is decided is on good faith and is not binding. Right. So typically the way we would get cases is, let's say party A has issues. Usually party A will call in and say, my neighbor is doing A, B, C, D. You'll find that because mediation is probably, a lot of people don't understand what mediation is. Some people might not even know what mediation is. The first thought that comes to mind when someone is looking for, a way to deal with party B's behavior is legal. So usually when someone comes to us, or when someone maybe might come to you, for your service, to those who work with community members, they're looking for a legal route. So in those cases, what we mostly do is to advise them to consider mediation first, because a lot of the times for neighbor disputes, you go to court and the judge will send you right back to be look at mediation, or they'll resolve that one problem, but will say you won't be able to come back to court again unless you show that you've actually given mediation a chance. So that's one way that we actually convince people to consider mediation. We say, look, I hear your challenge, but there is another option that is less costly, saves time, and is better. It's a better start, because you might be sent back to us anyway if you go straight to the court. So that's one way that we convince people. So once party A comes to us and says this is the issue of course, this example that I'm giving, this referral pathway that I'm giving is in the case where the aggrieved party contacts us directly. So once party A agrees to mediation, we then take initiative on our part and contact party B. We can send out a letter, we can give them a call and explain to them that party B, what party A has told us. But we always make sure that when we're talking to party B, we don't paint party A's grievance as like, you know, like in a confrontational manner. We speak in very neutral terms of party A has approached us. She says she has a challenge with the dogs that are coming into her yard, and she says that she's interested in meeting with you, having a talk. Are you interested in in mediation? And most of the time people will tell you, no, I've already talked to them, etc., in which case we would then explain to them that the mediation process is a two-pronged process. So it's like two-tier process. So what happens is when party B agrees to mediation, we give them a chance, each party separately, a chance to tell their story in the comfort of their home. So we assign two mediators who go to party A's home, hear party A's side of the story, and also accord the same opportunity to party B and also hear party B's side of the story. For the most part, party B is more than willing to engage in mediation once they hear that the first port of call is to get their side of the story heard. Because already, the moment you tell them party A has already approached us and told us their side of the story, already they're also interested to get their side of the story heard. So we sort of like try to get past that hurdle where party A gets their pre-mediation, tells their side of the story, party B tells their side of the story. And once that stage is complete, they're then offered a joint mediation session where we say, look, we've heard what you've said, party A, we've heard what you've said, party B. It would be in both your interests to come together and, you know, have like a mediation, a joint mediation, right? So when party A and party B say like agree to a joint mediation, sorry, just a moment there. I want to see can you see still my screen, Claire?
Yeah, we can still see your screen, yeah.
Okay, all right. There. Right. So when party A and party B agree to the joint mediation, we usually do the joint mediation at our offices here, but in some exceptional circumstances, we also use like a local library, a coffee shop, wherever is private, right? So in this joint mediation, what the mediators heard in party A's home is private. They're not going to bring it into the joint mediation. What they heard in party B's home is also private. They're not going to bring it into the mediation. What they're here to do is just to provide a platform for party A to share the same grievances that they had, that they shared earlier, and party B to share like the same grievances. At this point, the mediators have laid the groundwork already to make sure that party A is comfortable sharing their story and party B is comfortable sharing their side of the story as well. And so it's just party A and party B going back and forth, talking about their stories, but in a controlled environment. So the mediator is sort of like acting as a referee, if you will. So you find that already it's now different from just, oh, I've already talked to my neighbor, because now there's someone who's there who ensures that it's a respectful environment. It ensures that everyone is getting a chance, that no one is more dominating than the other, right? And at every stage of this process, it must be consensual. So party A and party B can pull out at any given time when they feel like, actually, I don't want to do this anymore. And we find that, again, that's further incentive for people to come on board for mediation, because they know that they're not forced to do this. And in our experience, once people have already started that process, by the time they get to the joint mediation, our qualified mediators have already done the groundwork to make sure that party A and party B feel that they are safe, right? So this is a typical referral process. And I know that on this webinar, we have some organizations, members from organizations that work with people, and you are like the first line, like first port of call for community members who come to you and have issues. So the question would be like, how would you refer them to us, right? So in those instances, you can just give them our number, but what we would ask of you, if once you've benefited from, so once you've understood what mediation is from this presentation, is that you impress on them just how important mediation is, and just how user-friendly it is, and how it's not a court process, like all the elements that we've explained here on why community mediation is a good way to go, so that by the time that they call us, or so that they're even willing to give us a call, we can start the process, right? So just as long as, even if it's just one party who comes to you, refer them to us, and we can start this process as I've just explained it. If it's already party A and party B, you can give us a call directly and say, I've received consent from party A and party B. This is their story. Would you please give them a call and explain to them what mediation is? And I am more than willing to do that. So basically, those are the two referral parts. A third referral part is cases that come directly from the court. Sometimes the court actually sends people back and say, go to mediation. And we have our flyers like in the local courts, or people just Google us and find us, and they give us a call and say, this is the scenario. So just to summarize, a case will come to us either directly from the aggrieved party or from another organization that is working with the aggrieved parties, in which case the organization will have consent for us to call the aggrieved parties, or number 3, the cases can come from the courts. So that's basically how the process will work. You find on these slides, I've just explained everything. So after this, if you want these slides, don't hesitate to contact us and we'll send you the slides. So basically 2 mediators are appointed to a case, as I explained. They'll make initial contact with party A and party B. They'll do pre-mediation with party A and party B separately in the comfort of their homes, and secure consent from both parties to do a joint mediation. Right. And in the joint mediation, like I said, both parties get a chance to share their story, and the mediators are only there to facilitate and not to impose an agreement on the parties. The mediators do not give advice, and the agreement that has been reached there will be put in writing, but is only a good faith agreement and is not binding. Right. And this whole process is confidential. It's confidential, it's free, and it's voluntary. So at any given point, at any of those stages, be at the pre-mediation stage, the joint mediation stage, both parties are free to actually pull out of it and say, actually, this is not what I want. So I would say in a nutshell, that's what mediation is and community mediation is. And we believe so strongly in this. We've had so many cases come to us. We've had some cases, some success cases where people will email us and say, thank you so much. Now, like with my neighbor, we've resolved it. We've opened a line of communication that wasn't there to begin with, but from the mediation, I feel like I can go to them and, express when I'm not happy with something. So we find that it really builds relations and prevents people from going to the court and basically creating animosity in the community. So I hope that clarifies what mediation is, and if there are any questions, I'll take them. I don't know if we have any questions at this point.
That was great, Sandra. Thanks very much. You're obviously very passionate about it and have seen it work, so it's brilliant. And there's no questions in the chat, so we'll finish it up and let everybody go and eat their lunch. If that's it. So listen, thank you all very much. When you close out of this, a little survey will pop up just to ask you was that useful, and if you wouldn't mind taking 2 minutes just to let us know, we'd appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who's on the webinar here, and thank you very much for that great presentation, Sandra. And it will be up on our website over the weekend. If anybody wants to share with their colleagues, you're more than welcome to. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy Christmas. Bye-bye.